Hello, welcome to our podcast. My name is Pastor Kevin Roberts, and this podcast is focused on Inside the Grace Track. And today, I have the privilege, I should say, of interviewing my buddy Melaku, who's been part of a church. How long have you been going to this church?
More than 2 years.
2 years, and it's been a
Yeah.
pure joy, hasn't it?
Yeah, very much, very much. Honestly speaking, as I said, every time I meet with you, and Sunday, coming for me at the church is, coming in and going out is, totally different with the worship experience, with the message that you deliver every Sunday. It means a lot for me.
See, I'm joking around and you're serious, which is perfectly fine. So thank you, Melaku. That means a lot to me. But if you don't know Melaku, where are you from?
I am originally from Ethiopia.
Okay, Ethiopia. And you kind of lived all over the place before landing in the United States, correct?
Yeah. I don't know if that is fortunately, but I used to live in East Europe, Africa, East Europe, West Europe, and now in North America.
That's fantastic. And so how many languages do you speak now?
Only 4.
Okay, this is what's funny to me, because Melaku said only.
Yeah.
And you're talking to somebody that barely knows one. And that's English.
That's what you need, at least for
oh my goodness. I remember taking Spanish in high school, and I got a D- in both of them. So, and I don't know, it's just...
Yeah, it's not because, I'm smart, but, just it happens that, I used to live in Bulgaria because that's where I studied my music in the Sofia Music Conservatory.
Right.
And I lived 7 years. So I don't have a choice. Every subject, every class is given in Bulgarian language.
Oh, really?
So you have to write papers and everything in Bulgarian language.
Great.
So you don't have a choice. The whole year, we have to study only language.
Really?
From 7 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock.
Okay.
The whole language. So I happen to speak Bulgarian language because of that. Then I moved to Italy another 7 years.
Oh, good.
So in Italy, you don't speak English. You speak Italian to survive. Then I moved to the US in 1998, and I speak English.
And that's when I first met you, and you were
the Ethiopian language, which is Amharic, Bulgarian, Italian, and English.
And you were the associate pastor. You became the associate pastor at the Emmanuel Ethiopian congregation.
Yes.
And that's when I first met you.
Yeah.
And
so when I moved to the US, I was associate pastor and the music director in Emmanuel Ethiopian Church in LA.
Okay.
So then, I became a senior pastor, I believe in 2008, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, 2008. And so, and then, but the senior pastor position for you wasn't a positive one, to say. That's just being polite, right?
No, not at all.
Because if you're listening, if you're seeing and listening to this podcast, Melaku went through some heavy stuff, and then none of it was his fault. It was just he was going through this crazy stuff of power struggle within the church and people out the church. So when did you just, as a senior pastor, you go, you know what, I'm done, right? Forget.
Yeah, it's very interesting. When I was associate pastor and the music director, I thought it is better for me to be a senior pastor so that, I will do whatever, I got inspired or whatever, God is putting in my heart so that, I can have a freedom to do all the things. But when I became a senior pastor, that was totally different because, when I was an associate pastor, I do my job.
Right.
But when the challenge comes and when thing happens, everything goes to the senior pastor.
Right.
Even I push it to him, and you decide this. But now,
Now
But
the
now
buck
when you
stops with
become a
you.
senior pastor, what do? You have to figure it out by yourself. So it happens just, after maybe a year or two after I became senior pastor, boom, the challenge becomes. So it is very, the hardest job, in my
Right.
opinion, is to be a senior pastor. Especially, I notice that now for the last 2 years, there is a shift in my ministry, and I resigned as a senior pastor and became, running the ministry that I'm leading. Now I have more passion for senior pastors than before.
And what, it's funny because and I think you and I were talking about this in private. A lot of people think senior pastors, it's an easy, gig to
Yeah,
do. You just, all you're doing is you're preaching 30 minutes on a Sunday and you're off the rest of the week. I get people joking like, hey, what do you do during the week? But it's not easy because I remember, you're right, as an associate pastor, you want to just go, hey, you need to talk to the senior pastor.
yeah,
I work for
yeah,
him. So,
yeah.
and
Especially when challenges happen, especially hard thing happens, you push it to the senior
no, it's
pastor.
horrible. Yeah. Talk
Yeah,
to Pastor Kevin. He's in charge.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you came over to this church, and basically, let me ask you this: when you came to the church, were you spiritually exhausted um, when you came here 2 years ago?
Yes, yes, I can say that because of the pressure that as a senior pastor, and and my approach of ministry was different before,
Right,
because I thought I can do everything by myself. Even to please God, I have to work very hard, you
right,
know kind of thing.
right,
But there is no, even my I notice now that even my reading of the scripture was not for my personal relationship with God, but for a preaching purpose.
yeah.
Oh, even when I read some scriptures and I got inspired, I said, "Wow, this is good for
I know.
for the sermon kind of thing."
Oh
So
yeah, and
what I
anything stupid that happens in your life, you go, "Oh, this is
yeah,
going to be a good sermon illustration."
exactly,
This
exactly.
will be a good sermon illustration. So yeah, you're absolutely right. That's funny. And so basically, when you came here, you were pretty much emotionally exhausted, and then all of a sudden, we had what's called Grace Track. Uh,
Yeah,
Announcing Grace Track, and to me, when Grace Track was written, um, it's a different approach to spiritual growth. It's not your typical Bible study and you get all this knowledge. But for you as a pastor, what made you decide to sign up? Because a lot of us pastors have these egos that, what am I going to learn? I know everything. I went to seminary. I went to college. I'm going to do this.
yeah.
So, what was your mindset to say, I'm going to submit under the leadership here, and I'm just going to take this grace track.
Yeah, I didn't know really. I didn't have an idea what this grace trek means and what will bring to my life. I didn't have any idea, but I just signed in. But after I signed in and go through all the process, I said, "Oh my goodness!" And have as I told you, like 2 years before this, it was like a transformation of my life that I have been, especially after I resigned my senior pastor position, and I understand that everything I do is for ministry. So I was in that kind of condition, but when I signed into the grace track and go through, it was a totally different experience for me, because before, when we have a Bible study, have led the Bible study groups and have been attending
Right,
Bible study groups. But what we do is we read the Bible, whatever we understand, we want to preach those who are around us, you
Yeah.
know, this is what it says. Even sometimes we fight that, you know, this is not what it says. No, this is, you know, accordingly, you know, this and that. Instead of, you know, what is for me, kind of.
Right.
So grace trick is opening my eyes to see, to read the Bible and, you know, listen to what God has to say for me through that particular scripture.
Right.
So to be exact on this grace trick, especially the life of Jonah, you know, I was preaching about Jonah so many times. You know, I was accusing Jonah. I was, you know, saying a lot of things about Jonah. But in this grace trek, I found out that I was Jonah.
Really?
Yeah, I was Jonah. That even, you know, my relationship with my family back in Ethiopia, even when I go to Ethiopia, I didn't have a gut to go to my family part. Instead, I choose to go to my wife's family side because all they are Christians. So we speak Christianese, and you know, we do all kinds of things, and that's it. But my family part, they are not, you know, believers like I do.
Right.
So I tend to uh, isolate myself from them. But in my study with Grace Drake on Jonah's life and understanding how he was, you know, uh, hard, hard, even he don't want to obey God,
Right.
that he was telling him, go and preach. He said, no, they have to die. They deserve to die.
Hmm.
So I have found out that I have so many uh, belief system or my formation of as an evangelical church believer or as a preacher as well. I tend to isolate myself from the rest of the people, and I tend to relate only with the Christian people who speaks Christianity.
Oh, really? So,
so
so because
so
of Grace Track, even as a pastor,
yeah.
you kind of said, you know, I need to reach out and I need to befriend my own family, even if they're not Christians.
Exactly. So in my last trip to Ethiopia, now I travel, you know, like twice a year. I travel to Ethiopia. So
Right.
when I finished my grace trek, even if you remember, you interview me on the, you know, interview us about grace trek in the church, and I was saying that I decide when I go to Ethiopia, I will stay with my family, uh, with my family, and
Right.
just, you know, to show my love for them,
Right.
to show who I am, so that they can see Christ in my life. I
Right.
don't have to preach them. You know, that's our problem. You know, everywhere we go, we think that we have to preach,
Right.
but we don't have to. Just, you know, people wants to be loved. So on my last trip,
Wait,
I
that's a good
called.
statement. Let's unfold that statement. You said people really don't need to hear me preach. They just need love,
Exactly,
which is
exactly.
fascinating for a
Yeah.
pastor to realize it ain't about that 30 minutes on the pulpit to say
No.
it's
Yeah.
about everyday life of just loving one another, caring for one
Exact.
another, for who they
Exact.
are,
Yeah. Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
who they are.
Yeah.
I grew
But
up,
our.
yeah, I
Uh,
grew up in a way that I was very judgmental towards non-Christians.
hmm,
That basically we were the ones and I was part of another denomination that it's just our denomination somehow implied that we're the only ones that are going to be in heaven. And so, so basically, it's like, come on, really? Can you that
yeah.
be that pompous about your relationship with God that you're the only one who knows it? So yeah, that's deep, you know,
Yeah.
especially for pastors, because our identity
Exactly.
is so much into our preaching. And for me,
Mm,
in this dumb pandemic thing that we're going through, I haven't preached in a month. And so
Mm,
your whole identity of who you
mm,
are is changing during this situation,
exactly.
making a priority. So, okay, I'm sorry. I just thought that was good. So how has the rest, has, since Grace Track, do you see parts of your life on the process of being restored?
Yeah, very much, very much. Now, not only I mean, the grace trek and the class we take, and even the centering prayer that we have been practicing. The hardest thing in my life, because of I have been in ministry more than 25 years.
Right,
So I found out the hardest thing for me is to sit down and do nothing and listen what God has to say for my life. I want to go outside and do something.
no,
That
and
way
that's
when
why scripture says, be still and know that I'm God.
exactly. So that was I found out even for the last 2 years I am struggling still.
Yeah,
I want to go outside and do big things for God.
right,
But God is, big by himself. He doesn't want for us to do big things. Instead, he wants for us to do his job.
right.
You know, whatever he puts in your heart, maybe it seems a small thing. Like, I said, for me to go to Ethiopia and stay with my family. And I can tell you now, the relationship between me and my family completely have changed
Really?
after my last trip, because they think before that, I don't want to associate with them because they are sinners. And the, of course, I was judgmental. I don't say it, but that but now I said, I don't have to preach them.
Yeah.
Let me be with them and love them and show the love of Christ. And completely, I can tell you story after story with my sister, with my brothers, and they completely, my relationship has been changed. And this is the problem with us. We once, uh, to preach, for thousands and for millions people, and then they raise their hand and they say, so millions of, thousands of people have accepted Christ. Woo! So I have a big reward in heaven. No, look, if you see the life of Christ, he's
Oh, shoot. Okay.
why that is with and all kinds of people that he was accused of that.
Okay, wait,
So
wait.
I think,
Melaku,
yeah.
the stupid computer froze out for the last 10 seconds or 15 seconds.
Oh, really?
And you were on a roll too.
Yeah.
And so, do you remember what you just said?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, can you say it again?
Yeah. What happened, in my life after this, especially after the grace trek and my decision to go back to, when I go to Ethiopia, to take a time and spend the time and even stay with my family. All the time they ask me, "Are you coming to us this time?" And this time I said, "Yes, I'm coming to you." And I spend the time with them. I didn't preach them
Right,
and I didn't say nothing. Just I tried to show my love for them.
right,
And I can guarantee you, my perspective for my life and their perspective for my life has been totally, completely have changed. I can't tell you that, they have accepted
right,
Christ and
right,
this and there. No, but I can see now they see the love of God in me, and how God is working, how I am peaceful in so many challenges and conditions. They can see the peace that is in me, and I'm so glad. Of course, the other side of me, which is formed for the last 25 years says, say something, do something.
No, it's and the thing is, to whoever's listening to this, pastors struggle with narcissism.
Exactly.
They really do. And you have to self-check all the time. So you're right that we kind of justify, wouldn't it be great to stand, we're talking about this, stand in stadiums and lead thousands of Christ to Billy Graham. And so, and then that's about our ego. It's not, and I've learned in my ministry, I have a funky little church. This church most likely is not going to be a mega church. It's a good church. I love the church, and I've seen transformation changes. But in the evangelical world, this is not what you would call, it's a very successful church. But because of Grace Track and some of the stuff that we're doing, and our mantra with no judgment, only love, it's a unique church. And I think we're called not just to preach the gospel, but we're called to live the gospel. And I think obedience is underrated. Success is overrated. And I'm talking about success and how the world defines success.
Exactly.
And so, because I know that in your culture, a pastor is much different than my culture. Well, maybe it's the same. If it's you're like the Almighty.
Yeah.
I'm close to God. I'm God's spokesperson. You want closer to God, you got to talk through me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's an exaggeration, is it?
Yeah. But they, in our culture, they think that we know everything.
Yeah.
So if we trying to answer, one time I remember someone, couple of times the lady is calling me and say, do you remember this verse, where is it, this verse, so and so? I said, then I Google and I tell her, so and so John, and she said, I knew you will figure it out. She didn't know that. I Googled.
I've done that before. I've done that too. They call me and they go, what's that scripture that talks about, and they put 4 words. That's all they know, 4 words in the whole text. You type in those 4 words in Google, within 2 seconds it'll tell you, that's in Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 12. I did the same thing, and they go, oh my goodness, you're amazing. You're a man of God. No, I know how to use Google.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's funny. Okay, let me ask one last question. In what area of your life that you could see, because of grace, that completely changed? I mean, that you look 2 years ago and you go, man, my perspective has really changed about this, or what's giving you a complete peace in life right
now? Only love, no judgment.
Isn't that hard?
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Because in so many ways, even within my culture and within my formation, we have these boxes. So we are in that boxes. So anybody out of that box is, will be judged by God. Of course, I will judge them as well. So coming to the Marina Christian Fellowship, still, of course, I can't tell you, how completely have changed and love everybody and no judgment. Of course.
It's great now on the 405 freeway. You don't get mad at people driving anymore. There's no one out there. But I hear what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it helps me in big ways to see so many things in, to be tolerant for so many things, so that I can love. If you are not tolerant for so many things, you can't love people, because nobody is like you. And especially with the formation, the way I am formed with the evangelical church, especially I was raised in the Pentecostal movement. So you are formed with certain thing that, everything has to fit in that boxes.
Right.
If you are out of that, like I said, even within my family, because they don't fit to that box, within that boxes, I isolate myself like Jonah was did. So,
Right.
love, only love, no judgment is big one for me, really,
Okay.
as
Okay.
a big one.
We'll end it on that note right there. So thank you for watching and listening to our podcast. Join us. I think we're going to be doing this every Tuesday and Thursday until this pandemic's over. And then when it's over, you are more than welcome to join us on Sunday mornings whenever it's over at 10 o'clock at Marina Christian Fellowship. So watch this. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Watch us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, the whole thing, all that stuff. Okay, God bless you and have a great week. Bye-bye.